Hello and welcome to the special report from Vietnam. India and Vietnam have shared friendly relationship from decades, and it has been 41 years since the establishment of diplomatic relations between the two countries. In the next half an hour, we'll take a look at exactly what has brought the two nations together and what is the road ahead for the bilateral ties. The journey for Vietnam from 20th to 21st century has not been easy. From being a French colony in 1920s to Japanese occupation during World War II, followed by partition and then unification of North and South Vietnam, people of this country had to endure a lot. Situated on the eastern rim of Indo-Chinese Peninsula, the Socialist Republic of Vietnam shares its border with China in the north and Laos and Cambodia in the west. The Vietnamese have fought numerous wars to defend their country from aggressors. In 1920, the struggle against French colonization started under Ho Chi Minh, who formed the Communist Party of Indochina the same year. Vietnam proclaimed independence after the end of the Second World War in 1945. But with French forces reluctant to leave, the struggle went on till 1954 and ended with the decisive defeat of the French at the hands of Viet Minh forces. Soon Vietnam was partitioned and the United States of America became gradually involved in the war to protect the South from the Communist North. American troops faced strong opposition from the Vietnamese revolutionary forces, who used a network of 200-kilometer-long tunnels interconnected to counter them. Located about 70 kilometers from Ho Chi Minh City in South Vietnam, these tunnels, known as Cu Chi tunnels, are one of the most famous historical vestiges of Vietnam's war for national liberation. After a long drawn-out war, USA pulled out in the 1970s and the nation was reunited in 1976. India and Vietnam have always shared friendly relations. The warmth in the relations is clearly understood from the note made in his diary by India's first Prime Minister, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, when he visited Vietnam in 1954. About his meeting with Vietnamese leader Ho Chi Minh, Pandit Nehru wrote,
"He came forward, almost leapt forward and embraced and kissed me. Obvious that this was not a showpiece. He felt it and meant it. Fine, frank face, gentle and benign, not at all one's idea of a leader of a rebellion."
This frank relation between the two nations was further solidified with the establishment of full diplomatic relations in 1972. Soon, bilateral relations soared to new heights, with India extending a helping hand to Vietnam in the field of science and technology and other areas. The bond between India and Vietnam is not limited to its leaders only. People on both sides are equally warm towards each other, and this was evident during the Friendship Day celebrations recently held in both countries. With 40 years of full diplomatic relations between the two countries, 2012 was celebrated as the year of friendship on both sides. Vice President of India, Mohammad Hamid Ansari, who reached Vietnam to attend the closing ceremony of this year-long celebration, was greeted with a wonderful display of Indian culture by Vietnamese artists. But it's not only about song and dance. People-to-people contact has also increased over the years, and Vietnamese youth are increasingly coming to India for higher education.
I love India a lot, and I enjoy my time during my studies there. And I have a lot of Indian friends, and they also help me a lot. Actually, I love my warden, ma'am. She was really sweet to me, and other many friends also. And I completed my studies there, BA, MMA.
And some have gone a step further, taking the political relationship to a more personal level.
मैं जस्ट पहली बार आया था अपनी मिसेस को, तो सी इज़ द इंटरप्रेटर फर्स्ट टाइम, तो मैंने उसकी मतलब जो एक वियतनामीज जो कल्चर है, इस वेरी हार्ड केयर टेकिंग कल्चर, एक माँ अपने बेटे को जैसे करती है वैसे यहाँ पर मेरे को लगता है मेरी पत्नी उससे भी ज़्यादा टेक केयर करेगी। और अभी हाल फिलहाल में चंडीगढ़ JW मेरिट में हम लोग शादी करके अभी वापस वियतनाम आए हैं।
Every day, every morning, so me and my husband go from house to our factory. So we have to drive car around 1 hour, and mostly I'm listening Hindi song, even though I don't understand the meaning, but the music is very like amazing. When I hear, I just want to dance.
The urge to understand, respect and help each other is clearly visible in the citizens of both nations. Soon after reunification, Vietnam embarked on a policy of economic renovation known as Doi Moi in local language. India, being a long-standing friend, played an important role in the reforms process here. After many years of war, political isolation and economic stagnation, Vietnam is now rapidly moving towards integration with the global economic mainstream by implementing structural reforms needed to modernize the economy. Vietnam's economy is predominantly agricultural, but the country is also witnessing fast industrial growth. And India has been a key partner in the story of growth, with several key projects being funded by the Indian government.
India has been a long-standing partner in Vietnam's development process. Our cooperation in diverse areas such as agriculture, science and technology, education, capacity building and human resource development is growing. We enjoy robust cooperation in the areas of defense and security. We are strengthening our cooperation in the field of human resource development and capacity building.
India has set a target of $7 billion for bilateral trade with Vietnam by 2015. Indian companies have ventured into Vietnam in increasing numbers, investing in diverse sectors and in several provinces.
They have to develop the banking at a macro level because their macro level of banking is very, very poor. Hence, we all are facing the problem for the finances.
China is a manufacturing hub for all the thing. तो वो cost advantage है. But Indian companies का advantage है quality. Indian companies मैं ये कहना चाहता हूँ कि they should look Vietnam. Vietnam जो है ASEAN में is one of the fastest growing country. बहुत बढ़िया market है और Indian companies को यहाँ पे long term vision लग के अगर वो काम करेंगे तो ये business opportunity बहुत ज़्यादा आएगी.
The absence of a direct flight between the two countries is one of the factors affecting investment in the tourism sector.
अगर कल्चर और बिजनेस को प्रमोट करना है, ये मेरा ये मानना है, डायरेक्ट फ्लाइट होनी चाहिए. जब आपका डायरेक्ट फ्लाइट होगा तभी इस चीज़ को आप प्रमोट कर सकते हैं. अदरवाइज इट विल बी वेरी डिफिकल्ट फॉर बोथ द कंट्रीज.
But officials say this issue will be dealt with in a short span of time.
Air Services Agreement, which is a very old agreement, has to be modified and amended. And the two ministries of civil aviation and the concerned authorities are working to have the revised memorandum of understanding, and that will enable the direct flights to begin.
With a common vision, shared interests and mutual trust, both sides are trying to overcome the difficulties. Economic cooperation is not the only link between India and Vietnam. The relations between both the countries have moved to the next level of strategic importance. With regional peace, stability and prosperity as common goals, both India and Vietnam share a strategic understanding and cooperation in regional and multilateral forums. Both sides are also seeking an amicable and peaceful solution to the contentious South China Sea issue.
As far as the South China Sea is concerned, our position has been very clear that there is an international instrument, international norms about how sea boundaries have to be determined, and if there are problems, they have to be negotiated through peaceful means. That has been our policy in regard to the question in South China Sea or anywhere else in the world.
I think that East Sea of Vietnam, especially the two parcels, the Spratly and these two islands, belong to the territory of Vietnam. And we have a cooperation with many countries in our territorial water. And I think the Chinese also claim on that. But their claim is illegal. There's no, I think they have nothing. They just claim it. But we, historically and I think legally, that belongs to Vietnam. And I'm very happy that we have cooperation with India on the oil exploration in this part of the sea. So we'll continue that, and Vietnam will continue to protect our territorial water.
With a dynamic economy and political stability, Vietnam has emerged as a regional power in Southeast Asia and continues to be an important part of India's look-east policy. We will take a short break here, and when we come back, we'll tell you what Indian ambassador to Vietnam has to say on the relation between the two nations. We are in Vietnam, and India and Vietnam have just completed more than 4 decades of diplomatic relations. We have with us none other than Indian ambassador to Vietnam, Mr. Ranjit Ray. First question which comes to mind when we talk about relations between India and Vietnam is a picture of first Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, and Ho Chi Minh, Vietnamese leader, standing together. Can you please throw some light on the historic perspective of the relations between India and Vietnam?
Well, let me say there are 2 sets of perspectives. The relationship between Prime Minister Nehru and President Ho Chi Minh goes back to the middle of the 20th century, or really the earlier part of the 20th century, when both our countries were fighting for our national liberation and freedom. And in fact, President Ho Chi Minh, when he was in prison in Indochina, as it was then known, had actually penned a poem about Prime Minister Nehru and had said that shared ideas link you and me. So the friendship between our 2 great leaders was really rooted in the common interest, in the common purpose of liberating our countries from the colonial yoke. And of course, this friendship became stronger and stronger over time. After India became independent, we extended a lot of support to Vietnam and the Vietnamese people. There were exchange of visits. In fact, I'm happy to inform your viewers that Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru was the first foreign leader to visit Vietnam after the famous Battle of Dien Bien Phu in 1954, and after Hanoi was liberated. And in fact, President Ho Chi Minh came to Hanoi. So this is the kind of relationship that we have in contemporary times. But let me also take your viewers to ancient times. There have been historical relations between our 2 countries for thousands of years. We have the monuments of the ancient Champa civilization, which was a Hindu civilization, a Buddhist civilization in south and central Vietnam. We have the great linkage through the philosophy of Buddhism, through the message of the Lord Buddha, which traveled to Vietnam from India. So in fact, our links go back a long, long time.
It's a deep and historic relationship which both countries share. One very interesting point, which I came across was 2012 not only marked 40 years of diplomatic relations between India and Vietnam, but it also marked 20 years of India's relationship with ASEAN group. And Vietnam in this region, specifically if you talk about the ASEAN group, has come up as a very stable country. And if you look at the development-wise as well, it has achieved a lot. How do you see the role of Vietnam in ASEAN vis-a-vis Indian interests?
Extremely positively. In fact, in addition to our excellent bilateral relations, I believe that ASEAN, the expansion of ASEAN to include Vietnam, has added a very important new dimension to our bilateral relationship with Vietnam. Vietnam has always supported the greater engagement of India with ASEAN. It has supported India's Look East policy. For us, Vietnam is very important because it's a very dynamic economy. It has grown at an average of 6% for more than 2 decades. It has a very young, dynamic population. It's the 3rd largest country in ASEAN. Geographically, it's situated at a very important part of Asia. So for all these reasons, and with our historical background and the new momentum to our relationship following the economic reform program in both countries. I believe that our relations are poised for a very strong, rapid and sustained growth.
You spoke about the geographical location of Vietnam being really important for India and Vietnam being really important with ASEAN as well. When we talk about the geographical location and when we give a cursory look at the map, one thing which strikes everyone and which is nowadays a very important issue as well, both with Vietnam, India, as well as the third important player, that's China, is South China Sea. What is the response from the Vietnamese leadership? What is their stand actually, because you represent India out here in the country, what has been their stand actually on the issue of South China Sea? Do we see Vietnam and India going hand in hand while resolving this entire contentious issue?
Well, let me first tell you what India's interests are. I think India is interested in peace and stability in this region. This is part of our region, the Asian region. Almost 1/3 of our total trade travels through the waters of the South China Sea that you mentioned. India also has commercial interests in the South China Sea. So we support all measures aimed at achieving peace and stability in the South China Sea, in resolving disputes through dialogue and negotiations on the basis of international law. And that is really the way to go forward. So that is our position. Vietnam, of course, has a territorial dispute in the South China Sea islands. As you know, there are many claimants to the islands. So there are territorial disputes between Vietnam and several other countries in the region. And clearly, a way has to be found, a framework has to be established to resolve these disputes. ASEAN has also made a lot of headway. They have already agreed to a declaration on the Code of Conduct in the South China Sea. This has been agreed between ASEAN member states and China. And they're working to further legalize and formalize this Code of Conduct. So we believe that is the way to go forward, to resolve whatever disputes exist peacefully through dialogue, and at the same time ensure that there is freedom of navigation and safety at sea for all the international traffic that passes through these waters.
You spoke about the economic cooperation between both the countries. I was looking at figures, very interesting figures when it comes to lines of credit being extended by India to Vietnam, more than 560 crore rupees, if I'm not wrong so far. But what I found speaking to certain Vietnamese, locals and Indian investors as well, is that there seems to be, the pace of growth, the pace of growth of trade between two countries is not what it should have been. $4 billion is the actual trade between two countries. Anything being done to go ahead and ensure that the pace catches up?
Well, let me put it in context. After the economic reform program of our two countries, our bilateral trade was only $200 million. So in about 20 years, it has increased to $4 billion. So it is a reasonable growth. It's a sustained growth over a period of time. But I agree with you that it is far below the potential, and it is far below the kind of relationship that we have with Vietnam at the political level. And I think both countries have to take a lot of initiatives to strengthen our bilateral economic engagement. We have established a Vietnam-India Business Forum to bring Indian and Vietnamese business companies together. The ASEAN-India Free Trade Agreement in goods is being implemented, and that will have a positive effect. We have now concluded the ASEAN-India FTA in services and investments. And when that is signed and is implemented, I think you will see far greater engagement between India and ASEAN and between India and individual ASEAN countries, including Vietnam.
One sector specifically I would like to speak about out here is the tourism sector, because if you look at it from the tourism point of view, both India and Vietnam are perfect markets for each other. But one impediment to the growth in that sector seems to be direct air link between both the countries. Although I'm told there was an agreement which was signed, but we are yet to see Indians flying directly from New Delhi to Hanoi or Ho Chi Minh.
No, I agree with you. I would love to see direct flights between our two countries. An agreement has been signed between two airlines. We are also working on revising the air services agreement, which will enable direct flights. We hope very much that we will begin direct flights this year. I believe that there is a lot of traffic between our two countries. A lot of Vietnamese go to India to visit the Buddhist tourist sites. And a lot of Indians, if they have the opportunity and have the awareness about Vietnam, would be happy to visit Vietnam. Millions of Indians travel to Bangkok and Singapore, and there's no reason why they shouldn't travel to Ho Chi Minh City, Da Nang, or Hanoi. So I'm very optimistic, and I believe that once we have direct flights, this will provide a significant boost not only to tourism cooperation and people-to-people contacts, but also our economic cooperation.
We saw, number of Indians in Vietnam when we were going around the streets of Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh, and they were not only tourists. A few of them were definitely tourists, but then there were others who've been investors in this country out here, and some of them have been here for almost 10 years, 12 years maybe. Can you please tell, give us a little bit of detail about as to what is the contribution of Indian community in Vietnam out here?
The Indian community is a very dynamic community, and they have been doing well. And what is interesting is they're contributing particularly to the growth of the agricultural sector. So in fact, their contribution is benefiting the poor people of Vietnam directly. And this is because our investments, many of our investments are in sectors like sugar, coffee, cashew, tea, rubber. And this is where the agriculturalists of Vietnam are involved. And as you know, Vietnam historically and even today is a very significant agricultural country. So Indian investment in this sector is really looked on very positively by Vietnam and the Vietnamese people. Of course, we are also investing in other areas, including in mining, in carbon black, in steel.
I'm told pharmaceuticals as well.
Pharmaceuticals, we have a lot of trade. We are also invested in the energy sector, in oil and gas. And our companies are looking very carefully at projects in sectors such as power, automobiles, infrastructure development. And our lines of credit, I think, will be very helpful in bringing additional investment. And we would like to leverage these lines of credit to get more and more business in Vietnam.
So significant number of commercial interest when it comes to individual Indians as well as the government of India as well. But one thing which is really important is that in recent past we've seen our leaders talking about how the relationship between India and Vietnam is now moving to a next level, that is of strategic level. How do you see the strategic and defense partnership carrying on between the two countries?
Well, we signed an agreement for a strategic partnership in 2007. We signed the agreement because India and Vietnam have shared interests. We have a similar approach to regional and global issues. And we believe that our strategic partnership will contribute to peace, stability, and prosperity in our region. And we are working very hard to add more and more content to our strategic partnership. The defense cooperation is one aspect of the strategic partnership, but our political cooperation, our cooperation in multilateral forums, particularly those relating to the ASEAN region, our cooperation on the economic side are all important aspects of our strategic partnership. And our endeavor is to inject more and more substance, have more and more concrete projects and programs in each of the sectors that I have mentioned.
Thank you so much, sir. So this was Indian Ambassador to Vietnam, Mr. Ranjit Ray. Keep watching Rajya Sabha Television.